so that we can get some breakthrough in terms of financing our construction and housing. That's one innovative way that I'm proposing that is not in the system now. In fact, it's part of the national housing policy that was launching in 2015, and I believe it's something that you must support. I said that it's in the national housing policy that was launched in 2015, and I think it's something that you must all support, that it will provide some breakthrough in terms of housing finance in Ghana.
Chairman, what about a PPP arrangement? Because if I look at you and I from Kumasi, and a typical area, Alaba, where the houses used to be mud houses, then the place became bricks with business. And then the landlords decide that, okay, come and build it into 4-story, give us the last 2, and then use the first 2 as shops, and then you operate them for some number of years, and then we share. And you will see that virtually in Alaba, where you and I are very much familiar with, a lot of high-rising buildings are coming up. And it's not because the landlords have money to build them, but they have leveraged their land, and they still have place to sleep, and they still have also this business that is running, and they're able to sustain them. Will you consider, knowing very well a number of government bungalows and lands that are in prime areas, that there are a lot of developers that may be having their money and may be interested in investing, will you consider this as one of the arrangements that you believe may help deal with the financing deficit?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I think this falls within the government's redevelopment program, where government provides land for developers and for developers to also build and give government some part of the building. In fact, that is the concept that the ministry is being proposed for the redevelopment of NEMA. That is the plan. When Lima sits on a 1,000-acre land, but the place doesn't have amenities. It's not a controlled area. So the plan, for instance, is that you use, say, a quarter of the place to build very good high-rising buildings for the inhabitants. Then the rest, the developer will use it for other purposes, commercial purposes. In this arrangement, government doesn't pay anything. But if there is a strong, deep stakeholder engagement for the people to accept this kind of arrangement, it will be a breakthrough in providing decent accommodation for a place like Nima. And I believe that same concept can be used for Abuabo and Aswaso area, where you and I are from.
Well, by the challenge you may have is that the lack of Nima and Abuabo, where I'm born, is that these are private properties. These are private properties. For example, I may not be interested in you coming to say, my family house, you want to have this arrangement. But if you can use the like of Kanda, the Kanda, estate, which belongs to the state, or you use some other areas like around Parliament here, the Osu area here, government has a lot of lands in prime areas. That one is easier, but private, arrangement is difficult. Even this Alaba that I'm talking about, you could go and you see one house in between 2 rises. You say, no, we are not interested. And it defeats the plan that you are thinking that you could have to have the whole area developed. But why not start with government-owned areas that are easier to start with?
Now, that one is already ongoing. I've already mentioned that as a result of that, we've been able to, the government has gotten a lot of houses and now using some as duty posts, when the honorable member asked me. We've done some at Roman Ridge, we've done some at Circle Road, and many other places, in cantonments and all that, and it's ongoing. There's one that is planned for Ringway Estate. All those redevelopment programs are going to make optimum use of the land, because you have an old land, 1 acre land, but the house that is seated there is a very small, maybe boys' quarters. But when you give it to a developer, you will see that you can get about 15 housing units from that. And that's the redevelopment program that is going. For that one is already ongoing. But you mentioned a situation where 2 private individuals having that kind of arrangement in Abuabo. And I said that even that concept, we can deepen it for the development of even slum areas like Old Fadama and other places.
Mr. Chairman, is he happy with the kind of design that are being used in the area that he's talking about? Cantonment, you see a government land, yes, it was just a 1 bungalow on 1 acre land. Now you'll be passing by, you just see some 1 story, the maximum I've seen are just 2 stories. These are still lands that are underutilized. When you look at that of the private persons in around airport residential area, it's going 15, it's going 10. Don't you think that we should standardize the kind of design and structures that if people want to engage government on this kind of arrangement of PPP, we say that for this area, we are not going anything less than 10 stories. So if you are interested, come. But we are not going to allow this 1 story, 2 story, because in the next 10, 20, 30 years maximum, they will also become a problem.
Honorable Member, I agree with you. I think it's a very important contribution. And the establishment of the National Housing Authority, one of the things that it will do is to standardize housing. So for this redevelopment program, for instance, it could say that this is a type of standardized housing that we need here. And we need this number of rooms, this number of apartments. So I agree with you. And with the introduction of the National Housing Authority, it will help in ensuring that. Thank you.
In an earlier answer to government workers who stay in government bungalow, default in their rent payment, and some who even after retirement don't want to move out, will you consider a scheme where, yes, these houses are for government, but you have to procure them or the allocation are done through a kind of PPP where they will ensure that people will pay what is due to the state, even if it's as a token, just to be able to maintain the structures. And then when it is your time to quit, they will ensure that you quit on time. Instead of the current arrangement where the Ministry of Works and Housing do not have enough manpower to be going around collecting these monies and ensuring that people are evicted when they are retired.
Please come again. I didn't get you a break.
Now I'm saying that will you consider a scheme that is PPP, that's public-private partnership, where they do the collection of the rent? The private sector that will do the collection of the rent to ensure that everybody pays the rent, maintain it, and run a fee, and also to ensure that people get out of the bungalows when the time is due. Because I know the Minister of Works and Housing do not have enough manpower to be going around ensuring that everybody is paying the rent and those who are supposed to quit at the right time. Now I'm asking whether you may consider that too.
Yes, I'm for outsourcing this kind of government work to private sector, because they bring some efficiency into it, and I will seriously consider that.
Yes, I just want to find out from what is his take about Minister of Works and Housing selling these very scarce government bungalows to individuals and in some instances occupants. After staying in them for some time, then by the time I realize the houses are sold to them and then it becomes a private property.
I am not for that. I'm against that. And we need those lands for this redevelopment program. So if you sell it to individuals, you don't have this land for the program that you are talking about. So I'm totally against the sale of these lands to private.
So is it an assurance that as this House is considering your nomination, if considered, under you, no government bungalow will be sold out to any private individual?
Honorable, you can take it as an assurance from me. Thank you.
The chairman, earlier when he was talking about the increase of the minimum months from 3 in the case of residential, and then the commercial 6 months, he said that moving them to 1 year may be a reasonable time to ensure compliance, right? Is it not the deficit that is creating the huge market rather than the number of months? So if you don't deal with the deficit, even if you put it to 1 year, in a very short period of time, once the demands are high, people will move to 2 years and 3 years, and then you now come and say, oh, the 1 year is not sufficient, that's why they are doing that, so let's move it to 3 years. Is it not the deficit that we need to deal with instead of just talking about the months?
It is, you are right, it is the deficit. And it is because of the deficit, that is why I said, if you implement the 6 month advance now, the landlord will be engaging opportunistic behaviors. The ultimate is to close the deficits. But once we haven't been able to do that, this is a temporary measure that we need to make sure that the tenant and the landlord are both happy. Thank you.
Is it not also the issue of trust? Because sometimes you rent out an apartment to a tenant and you want to help, so oh, pay me every month, and then the person goes 3 months without paying. What do you think we can do to be able to help, for example, workers that have monthly income so that their salary could be paid directly to the landlord, so that it becomes an incentive for the landlord to say that, look, since I can get your rent every month, I may not need to charge an advance. Because sometimes it's also the issue of trust, that you put the person in there and then you don't get your money.
I think it's an interesting suggestion that we take a look at. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman, thank you very much.
Do you want to ask a question?
No.
Yes, Deputy Leader.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, my good friend Asenso and I share the same esprit de corps, and I am happy for this opportunity given him by Mr. President to serve this nation as a Minister of State. But Honorable Suhini put to you some questions regarding some allegations by certain groups. Do you see allegations by certain groups? Do you see some of these things coming at a time as a young man, Deputy Chief of Staff, as an attempt to victimize you?
We are in politics and we can't rule these things out.
So it's a possibility.
Certainly so.
Because for no reason, and you not being in charge of appointments at the presidency, to be accused publicly as someone preventing someone from having access to Mr. President, obviously is to set you up for public ridicule and hate, correct?
You are right. I remember at a point when I mentioned it to the president, he told me that these are some of the problems we go through when you are close to the president.
To conclude, don't expect this to cease. Going to the ministry, you should expect more of such. Be fair. And I'm sure, guided by your own oath, that in times of difficulty, you're going to rely on God. Your faith shall save you. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Chairman, let me thank you. And Chairman, the nominee is young into the high office of minister. I appreciate that he will be putting his feet in the shoes of the Honorable Atachia. I share a lot of strong values with him. We share our reading books, and I respect his depth. You must appreciate that, including me, many ministers have gone to ministries and have not succeeded, not because they do not have the will, and not because they do not have the expertise, but because they are constrained. For instance, I heard you talk about the housing, low-cost housing regime. I've been perusing the handing over notes of the Honorable Atachia. He wrote to the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance withdrew the guarantees. No one will do an off-taker if you don't have that assurance from government. I've also read his initiative on the National Flood Control Program, for which he requested for 500 million Ghana cedis. Ultimately, he was asked to reduce it to 300 million Ghana cedis. No releases were done. So, I just want to have your assurance. One, EDRA, there's some project which was started in EDRA that has been abandoned. Can I have your assurance that you get it started to serve the people of EDRA in the Ashanti region? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Please, which particular project in EDRA are you talking about? What project?
Thank you, Chairman. The Honorable Samson Ahi, Saglemi Housing Project. Main project was to decongest the city, as you said. 2,172 acres. I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. I have to refer to it in the handing over note. So I'm on the Saglemi in the page now. Now, my thinking is that get and raise additional financing, get Saglemi completed, consult with the president, and that's what you do with good influence, and dedicate that housing infrastructure to the Ghana Armed Forces. Instead of leaving it lying idle, when soldiers don't have places to sleep, many of them are already in that area. No one is saying that there shouldn't be ensuring value for money. But when you drive past it, your heart will bleed that the state of Ghana will invest enormous resources, $181 million US, then 4 or 5 years on, it is still idle. Can I have your assurance? Then I'll open the handle over notes to come to the Ejura project for you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I've already given the assurance that when I get to the ministry, if I get a nod, I will work hard to ensure early completion of the Standardization project. Whether or not that can be given to the Ghana Army, I will need further consultations on the matter. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. Chairman, the Ejura project is in page 45 of the 307 page, Ejura Lot 2. The Ejura Lot 2 project is located at Ejura in the Ashanti region. The contract was awarded in June 2011 and has not been completed. So take note, when you go, even in that page, Coastal Maritime Program is also listed as uncompleted. Then the sea defense projects, I don't intend to take you through. You are not at the ministry. It will not be fair for me to be asking for your output there. You see, Cape Coast Coastal Protection Project, 22%. Commander Coastal protection project 30%. Anumabu Coastal Protection Project 43%. Then my worry is here, Ningo Pram Pram Coastal Protection Project 15%. And then Abuazi Coastal Protection Project 15%. Will you ensure early completion of these projects to protect livelihoods in those areas? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, all these projects are on schedule. And God willing, when I get to the ministry, we will do whatever it takes to make sure that they are completed. But as far as I'm aware, they are on schedule. Thank you.
Yeah, when you go through the handing over notes again, Chairman referred you to Article 35(7). The Constitution imposes an obligation that as minister, projects initiated by the Honorable Atachia, you don't go to the ministry and say that you are abandoning them. Projects that were earlier initiated, as you go through the handing over, I see 2011, 2012, 2015, 2016, continuity. If you come to Tamale, on the Wamali Road, driving through Salaga, the housing project which was initiated just between Vitim and San Gergo is kind of abandoned. Can I have your assurance that you will support the completion of the housing project?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, are you referring to the affordable housing program initiated by President Kufuor?
I should think so, Chair.
Yes. We have three of those in the country: Kufuor, Tamale, and Wa.
What will you do about them?
As we speak, those three have been ceded to State Housing Company to complete them. In the case of Tamale, my understanding is that there has been a lot of encroachment on the land, and there are still some issues with the land ownership. I got a briefing from the State Housing, and what came to my mind was that since, Honorable Member, you are from there, you will count on your leadership to resolve these matters of encroachment and land ownership.
Chairman, I can assure the nominee that I'll play any role with the chiefs to resolve any outstanding issue. What I'm saying is that the workers there, whether nurses or doctors, is very close to the Tamale Teaching Hospital, where doctors are struggling for accommodation, nurses posted in the area are struggling for accommodation. If there is encroachment, it's because you've abandoned it. It's been abandoned for long, not your fault. You are now moving to the ministry. So take note of it. Chairman, I think that I should genuinely accept that I'm tired, and maybe we'll have to, I should genuinely accept that I'm tired. And with many colleagues, and knowing that you are now strict with your COVID directive, I can only end by assuring the honorable nominee that I heard you shouting praises on the president. He's not going to accompany you to works and housing. Go and leave your mark and leave your blueprint and doing many of the projects that the honorable Atachia initiated. But for want of support of finance, had to abandon